Hey, it's Audrey, and in this video I'm going to be doing activity 2-3, adding a DC to the 412 domain 1 domain. And in this video I'm going to be using my server 1 and server 2. And the objective of this activity is to add a DC to the 412 domain 1 domain. And so in order to do this, I need to log on to server 2 as an administrator. Maybe not the forest. Well, I guess, hold on. With my password. And then I want to log on as server 1 as an administrator. Okay. So in order to add a domain controller to my 412 domain 1, I first need to delete the trust that I created in my in activities before this. The trust between the 412 DOM 1 and the 412 Forest 2. And then I'm going to demote my server 2 to have the 412 Forest 2 local root forest removed. So after I demote my server 2, and I'm going to add it as an additional domain controller in my 412 domain. So waiting for my server 1 to boot up. So I'm going to go, it's taking its time. So once my server manager comes up, I'm going to go into my Active Directory domains and trusts, and we're going to take a look at the trusts that are already set up. Okay, now that my server manager is up, I'm going to open up the Active Directory domains and trusts. And usually to do that, I'll go to Tools and then select it, but I have it already pinned to my taskbar. So I'm just going to click that to open it. Okay, so now I'm going to right-click my 412 domain1.local. I'm going to go to Properties. I'm going to click on the Trust tab. And here, I'm going to click on the 412 forest2.local. And then in the domains trusted by this domain list, I'm going to click Remove. And then I'm going to click Yes, I want to remove this domain, remove both the local domain and other domain. And in the username text box, I'm going to type in 412 Forest 2 Administrator. And then the password is going to be password 02. Click OK. And it says, are you sure you want to remove this outgoing trust? And you want to say yes. Okay, and then I'm going to repeat what I just did on my incoming trust. So I'm going to click on the Forest 2, click Remove, say yes, and yep. So now I'm going to open up, now since that is all done on my server 1, I'm going to close that out, and then I'm going to switch over to my server 2. And in the server manager, I'm going to click Manage, Remove Roles and Features. Then usually I have this one skipped by default, so I'm just going to check that to have it skipped by default for next time. And then in the server selection text window, I'm going to click next because this is the server that we want to remove. Now in the server roles, I'm going to clear the Active Directory domain names and services. I'm going to click remove features. And just got to wait for those to be removed. Takes a minute, I guess, to remove. So in this validation text box results, it says that the Active Directory domain controller needs to be demoted. So I'm going to click demote this domain controller. And then in the credentials window, I'm going to click on the last domain controller in the domain. And then I'm going to click next. And then I'm going to say, click to check proceed with removal. Next. Then I'm going to click on remove this DNS zone and remove the application. So I'm going to click both of those. Next. And then in the new, for my new password for this server, it's going to be password 01. Okay, and I'm going to click next. And then this is where we review everything that we just did. So we're going to remove Active Directory domain services from this computer, and I have indicated that the domain controller is the last domain controller in the, this is the very last domain controller in the forest. And then when your process is complete, this domain will no longer exist, and I want to click demote. And after a while, my server is going to restart. And when that restarts, I'm going to log back in. So this might take a few. So now my server is restarting because that server role is being removed. And we're just letting it restart and boot back up. Alright, now that my server is restarted, I'm going to log back in as the administrator, and I'm going to put in the password 01. And notice how when I first logged on, it didn't say like 412 domain 1 or 412 forest 2. That's because this particular server is no longer part of the domain forest, so I demoted that in my last few steps. Just thought I'd clarify. And so after this gets logged in order to promote this server to a domain controller, I first need to change the preferred DNS server address in the TCP/IP version 4 properties. So to do that, I'm going to right click here and open my network and sharing center. I'm going to click on my Ethernet. Click on Ethernet, properties. Here I'm going to go into my, and then see my preferred DNS server. I'm going to change that to 10.12.1.2, and that's the same address as my server 1. So I'm going to click OK. And then in my preferred, I'm going to obtain DNS server address automatically. And click OK. Now, in my server manager, I'm going to see this little triangle with a notification arrow thing. I'm going to select promote this server to a domain controller. And in the deployment configuration window, I'm going to accept the default deployment operation. So once that gets finished, once it finishes booting up, or loading, I mean. So I'm going to keep this default of adding a domain controller to an existing domain. And then here in the domain, I'm going to type 412 domain1.local. And in the credentials, I'm going to change those to 412 dom1 administrator with the password 01. Go OK. Now I'm going to click next. And in the domain controller options, I'm going to keep the defaults of having it be a global catalog and the site information. And in the password, I'm going to type in the password 01. Now I click next. And in the DNS options window, I'm going to keep all the defaults and click next. And in the additional options, I'm going to click next. In the paths, I'm going to keep the defaults and go next. And then this just gives me a review of what we just configured. So I'm going to click next. And in the prerequisite check, it shows that all prerequisite checks pass successfully. So I'm going to click install. And once Active Directory is installed, it is my server is going to restart yet again. Here we go. So it says I'm being restarted. Look like I got an error though. Okay, now that my server is rebooted, I'm going to try logging on. Oh, hold on. Looks like it didn't take. So let's try this again. So retracing my steps, what could I have done wrong? So it looks like my attempt to make this into another domain controller failed. So that's there. DNS, okay. Okay, so where did we go wrong? Well, I guess ideally in a perfect world, in my perfect world, this would have worked. But it seems that, you know, everybody else has gotten the same results, so I'm just going to end this video here and continue working on this. Okay? See you next time.